Hey, 360 electricians. In this video, you are going to get to see the full and complete Google Meetup for April 12th, 2022 with special guest. I'm not going to tell you. You got to watch the video. You're not going to believe who I had on the channel to join in on the best perk in all of YouTube for electricians and electrical contractors, our Google Meetup. Did you know that if you join the page at the 240 volt level and the 480 volt level, that you are going to get to participate in our monthly Google Meetup sessions? And just like last time, if you're not used to this channel, you want to stick around because this special guest really blew us away. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Drum roll. Brrr. I didn't need to introduce him, but there he is, Ryan Jackson, a code guru and the channel under your name, right? Ryan Jackson?
Yeah, Ryan Jackson Electrical on YouTube.
You got it. So I think you can either probably do at Ryan Jackson or youtube.com Ryan Jackson and you'll find him. And I've been following Ryan for a while, truth be told, because secretly I don't know some stuff in the code. And you don't tell
secretly, I don't either. So
well,
in fairness, I don't know anybody that knows the whole book.
Well, you know, we don't go to our guys and say, what's that code? You know, so we go to Ryan's channel. And so Ryan, thanks for dropping in. Hopefully we don't have some of these technical difficulties, unfortunately. Here we go. Ryan's coming in again.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's good to be here, Jeff, and thanks for having me. And it's good to see the rest of your crew here as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Again, I do this for my members. If you are a member of the channel on the 240 volt or the 480 volt, Ryan, how are you, my friend? If you're on those memberships, doing great. I'm just introducing Ryan and talking a little bit about the channel. So if you're on the 240 volt, the 480 volt, and you're signed up, I do this once a month for the 240 volt. We're going to start doing it every week once we get enough members for the 480 volt. So thank you guys. If you're 240 volt for sure, you can level up. If this is something, you know, it's coffee with the electricians, coffee with the code guru. I always have a special guest, and today's special guest needs no introduction because two of you guys already know him. Ryan, do you know Ryan over there? Ryan?
Yes, I know Ryan Jackson. Absolutely.
Dude, Ryan, I'm just going to log off. I'm going to go to dinner. I'll see you back in a little while. Okay, guys? Jason, how are you? We got you.
Oh, I'm doing good.
To have you. Yeah, you're coming in. This is great. You know what, Ryan? I've got another Ryan up here. I'm going to cancel that one. Looks like you logged in from a different device, right?
Yes.
There you go.
My computer does not have a camera.
Got it. Got it. We didn't have any problem in coaching. I think we did coaching a month or two ago, didn't we?
I haven't done coaching yet. No.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, you look super familiar. I got somehow you look super familiar. Okay, were you on one of our meets before?
Yes.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Okay, guys, so listen, I'm just going to moderate. This is totally going to be an open forum. This is here so that we all ask each other questions, you know, find out about the trade, what we're going through, if we have any problems. This is coffee with electricians. Like we're all, you know, we're not each other's competition. Although I tell everybody, even if you're in my neighborhood, you're not my competition. There's so much business to go around. Look, I'm in Missoula. There's only 100,000 people. People here might think everyone's each other's competition. I get it, but I don't believe in that. I believe in networking and tying together. So I'm honored that Ryan took me up on this offer to be our special guest. Jason, I think you're the only one that I didn't ask. Do you know who Ryan Jackson is? Have you seen any of his videos?
Yes.
That's it. You got full house. You got a royal flush. So we're going to let Ryan just introduce himself. It is such a pleasure. And for us being in the trade to have someone that's so knowledgeable about the code is just phenomenally awesome. Again, if you're watching this later on the channel, either on Ryan's or mine, Ryan Jackson, just look it up on YouTube, probably at Ryan Jackson. I should probably check that before I say it. But Ryan has a passion to help people in the trade. He was just telling me about that. But I'm going to give it to you, Ryan, just to introduce yourself and how you even got to where you are, because when we talked on the phone, pretty interesting story.
Hey, Jeff. Well, thank you for having me first and foremost, and it's good to be here and good to see everybody. I'm Ryan Jackson. I'm based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and I just kind of tell people that I'm a code nerd. That's really kind of what I do. So I teach seminars and write textbooks about the National Electrical Code. I do expert witness on lawsuits if somebody has an electrical code issue, do consulting, things like that. So I just kind of have a passion for the electrical code. I started in the industry when I was 18 as an electrician, And even back then, as much as I enjoy working with my hands, and I still work with my hands in my garage all the time, as much as I enjoy that, I always really loved the challenge of trying to master the NEC. That was part of the industry. I wanted to be the guy that that everybody asked the questions of. You know, when people were stumped or when they didn't know what to do, I wanted to be the guy that had the answers. I don't know, maybe it's just my ego, quite frankly. But I took it on myself that I wanted to really master the NEC. So I started really learning the NEC, and I left being an electrician fairly young and started inspecting when I was about 23 years old. And I did that because, again, I just the NEC was the facet of the industry that really drove me. So I started inspecting when I was quite young, and of course that had some challenges as well, being an inspector in your early 20s and you know, writing up somebody in their early 50s about something is a difficult thing to do. But you know, once one of the things I found with inspectors is the ones that are willing to talk with you are usually the ones that know what they're doing. And I always tried to explain why I was doing what I was doing and make sure that I could back up anything that I was writing with a code reference. You know, I'm not an inspector that believes you can just make people do whatever you want. The fact is, if it's not a code requirement, then it's not a code requirement. And if I think it should be a code requirement, then it's on me to try to change the code. So I'm very much a code purist that way. So I started inspecting when I was 23, and then a couple of years later, I was spending a lot of time on Mike Holt's code forum and answering questions and things. And I met Mike. The NFPA was having a meeting in my hometown of Salt Lake City. NFPA was having their annual meeting for the 2005 NEC. So this would have been in autumn of 2004. And Mike came out to the meeting, and I made it a point to take the day off of work and meet with Mike. And you know, I'm a big believer that there's only a few opportunities in life that come up that can really change your life. And if you can see those coming, and usually I can't, I'm not that smart, but I thought to myself, you know what, meeting Mike might be a life-changing opportunity for me. I'm going to take the day off, and I'm gonna be ready for it. And I did. Met Mike, and we hit it off really well. And I just said, hey, listen, if there's anything that you need, you know, I'm an instructor. I certainly don't know everything, but if there's anything that I can help you with, let me know. Just, you know, proofreading some of your materials. I like to think I'm at least semi-literate, you know, so if I can read your books and help you out, let me know. And he called me back and he said, hey, I want you to do some videos with me. You mentioned that you like hazardous locations. And Mike said, I don't. And that's okay. You know, there's certain parts of the code that I love and certain parts that I don't love. And for Mike, he doesn't really love hazardous locations, and I do. So he called me and he said, hey, you know, I'd love to have your input on that. And did some videos with Mike, hit it off really well. Before you know it, I started editing his books, and then I started writing his books. I wrote his Code Changes book from 2008 through 2017. And edited pretty much all of his books in that time frame, so probably 50 of them or so. And then we kind of split apart around 2016. I started doing my own thing, and I've been writing books for myself, and my books are used in the IEC curriculum now, so in their 4-year apprenticeship. So I've got a 3-volume textbook that covers the entire NEC, and then I've got Code Changes books, and I teach probably, I don't know, 70 classes a year, something around there. So I do quite a lot of teaching, seminar instruction. I don't really teach apprenticeship. I taught this morning for the Department of Energy. I've taught for some, you know, Forbes 500 companies. Facebook is one of my clients. eBay, Continental AG, one of the biggest companies in the world. Intertech Testing Laboratory. So I've had the luxury of teaching some really cool clients and teaching at some amazing facilities. It's really, for a code nerd like me, it's really been a dream come true. You know, teaching at power plants and being able to tour facilities and seeing. You know, I remember the first time I taught at a power plant, I saw a transformer that was 968,000 kVA.
Oh man!
And I didn't even understand that number.
Gosh.
I really didn't. I didn't even understand it. I was trying to put a decimal and commas in, and I stopped and realized,
Was it a semi truck size? How big was that thing?
Yeah, it was 1,000,000 kVA.
Oh
You know,
my gosh.
the biggest one I ever put in was 500 kVA. That was 1,000,000.
Right.
You know, and then I've taught at hazardous locations place that we have the state of the art, you know, systems. So it's been really cool, you know, teaching at Intertext Testing Laboratory where they actually test hazardous locations. They have a building that they test explosion-proof equipment in, and when you test explosion-proof equipment, the test is the building explodes or it doesn't.
Wow.
You know, and that really is the test. And to you know, to go there and teach hazardous locations to their hazardous locations testing team was just a real honor. So you know, it's just it's been a pretty crazy ride. I never would have thought 20 years ago that this is where the industry would have taken me, but that's where it's taken me, and really I've enjoyed every minute of it. The industry has been really, really good to me.
That is very awesome. I totally agree. And I'm going to let everybody ask your questions, so get them ready. My first question is something that Ryan just said that just blew me away too, because you don't expect it. But when you said eBay and Facebook and all those, because they also have, you know, gigawatt, whatever, giga something factories where they have servers and electrical to run all those. Is that the places that you're talking about?
Yeah, so some of the data centers.
That's amazing, guys.
And you know, when you talk about a data center, like there's an eBay data center that's actually quite close to my home. I mean, it's seriously a 10-minute drive.
Wow.
And it is, I'm trying to remember how they classify data centers, but it's a top tier. I think it's like a category 5 or a category 4, whatever the top one is.
Yeah,
so
a lot of power there.
Redundancy and reliability, because they handle every transaction that goes through PayPal.
Wow.
So they do about $7,000 per second every day going through that facility. So as you can imagine, they do not lose power ever. You know, so facilities like that are really cool to teach at.
And full-time, anybody watching this video, if you're in a data center, like full-time maintenance, electricians, journeyman masters on those sites, taking care of all that stuff. Yeah, not a bad career. Talking about union or something.
Gig.
Yeah, a lot of people say. A lot of people ask me, what about industrial commercial? And I'm like, factories, it's loud, it's this, but man, that actually sounds like a really good gig.
Oh man, some of the places I teach at that have on staff electricians, these guys have it made. If there's like a really big project that needs to be done, of course they'll subcontract it out. You know, these guys get paid not for what they can do physically, but for what they know. You know, eBay is interested in one thing, and that's keeping the lights on. Right. So they will hire as many staff as they have to and pay them whatever they need to make sure the lights stay on. So there's so many different things in the industry that a journeyman electrician can do.
Yeah,
I always tell people, you know, if you're going through apprenticeship and you're having a hard time, I know with me when I was going through apprenticeship back in the early 90s, and I don't know if it's still as bad, it probably is. There was a fair amount of hazing. And
there is. Yeah.
Absolutely heated. I mean, heated that I worked with.
Yeah.
But man, if you're a young electrician watching this, stick it out, man. Stick it out. Get your journeyman's license. And whether you want to open up your own business as an electrical contractor, or you want to go work at a power plant or a data center or a testing facility, there are a million different jobs that you can do in this industry. It's a really, really big industry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I wrote some questions that I want to ask him, but I want to open it up, you guys. I mean, Ryan's here. I wanted to ask a couple of questions, but I'm going to leave it open just for you guys to ask Ryan directly. Anything you guys got going on, even the simplest thing. I always say there's never a I tell my employees every time, I'll tell you guys, there's never a stupid question. And Ryan would agree. I'd rather get it right than wrong. So there's never a stupid question, as simple as it should be. And I've found myself going to some of my guys that I know, like Ryan said, everyone's kind of an expert in their own area because they have a passion for it. And, you know, whether it's, oh man, how many inches was I supposed to strap a Romex? As simple as that to whatever, you know, just like you said, derating, sizing. So,
if I can expand on that, you know, I've been teaching codes since almost 20 years, since 2003. And I found that there's two different types of people that can absolutely turn my lights out when they raise their hand. And that's somebody that like really knows a lot about something. Like I was doing a class and I said how a particular code rule was kind of dumb. This dude raises his hand And he's like, well, according to UL 608.72,
right. Like,
and I'm like, oh God, security. This guy, this guy knows what he's talking about. That kind of guy, he can turn your lights out as an instructor, and that's good. We need people like that. But the other one, the other guy that raises his hand and will ask a question and you can't answer it, is a guy that doesn't know anything about anything and is asking something that he thinks is a stupid question because he or she hasn't had the chance to learn incorrectly yet. That's when I find out that I've been wrong for 20 years is when a first-year apprentice raises their hand and they say, Ryan, that's not what it says in the code. And I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about? I had the requirements for protecting NM cable in attics. I had that wrong for 20 years. And it was a first-year apprentice that raised his hand and said, I don't think that's what it says. And we opened up the code book and we read it with a magnifying glass, and he was right. And I didn't know anybody in the industry that was doing it correctly. I know when I worked for Holt, and he doesn't mind me saying this, we had it wrong there. I had books that were wrong. He had books that are wrong.
Wow. Interesting.
Wrong. Everybody on the code making panel that I talked to had it wrong. The only person on the planet that had it right was this first-year guy in Salt Lake City that raised his hand and said, that's not what it says.
Interesting. We should probably ask him, how do we do NM cable in the attics?
When it comes to the NEC, because it's a huge topic.
Right. Of course. Well, all of us are doing Romex non-metallic you're talking about in the attic, stuff like that. Yep. And so let's clear it right now. We got Ryan. What is it? You got to put the wood strapping so you don't step on it, right?
Well, okay, so that was it. So 320.23 is the rule. And what it says is, if you have NM cable or MC cable or AC cable, any kind of cable in an accessible attic, you have to protect it. And it says you have to protect it within 7 feet unless you do not have a permanent ladder, and you have to protect
the opening.
6 feet.
Right.
Everybody that I know didn't realize, and I didn't realize, that the 7-foot measurement is a vertical measurement.
Oh, interesting.
It's from the floor, the bottom of the trusses, measured up 7 feet. And if you have a permanent stair or ladder, you have to protect every piece of wire in that attic, the whole attic, from the floor up 7 feet.
Interesting. Okay, so this is something new to me. I know that you had to protect it within the stepping distance, which is that's the 3-foot rule, right?
The 6 foot.
6 foot, sorry, rule. Yes. And 7 feet in all directions.
7 feet vertically. Yeah.
Wow, guys.
So it's not just what you can step on, but like like in my area, we use wood
it in your head.
Use what? Wood trusses for framing.
Oh, right. Same here.
So if I go up in an attic, it's not just what I can step on, but if I start falling through the sheetrock or whatever, and I go and grab for something, I don't need to be pulling the Romex down and going through down in the living room with 120 volts in my hand at the same time.
Raise your hand if you didn't know that one.
Yeah, and that was one.
Yeah,
that was one that a first-year apprentice pointed out.
That's awesome. So what did you think the 7-foot rule was? Because I don't even. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even read it.
I thought you had to protect wiring that you could step on for 7 feet. 7 feet away from the attic access.
Right. I think everybody thinks that same way. You just
and then if you don't have a permanent ladder, instead of 7 feet, it's 6 feet.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, what a dumb rule.
Right.
But okay. No, that's not it at all. 7 feet vertically for the whole attic, unless you do not have a permanent stair or ladder. Then it's 7 foot vertical within 6 feet of the access.
Wow, that's a game changer to 90% of construction out there.
Yeah,
I guarantee 90%. I've never had an inspector catch me on that. We've been caught on the 6-foot rule. I've never been caught on the 7-foot rule. I don't know if any of you guys have that experience. Never, Ryan. So interesting.
I didn't realize it until after I was done inspecting.
Yeah.
So sure. I passed every house that I inspected.
7, right? Crazy. Guys, questions for Ryan? Not to put you guys on the spot, but in general, like, I've got a couple of code questions that I can think of off the top of my head, or that I've ran into that I didn't know completely. But go ahead. I'll leave it open for a little bit. If not, I've got questions, as I said, I can ask them.
For me, I just want to just say it's a pleasure to actually be talking to Ryan Jackson, for one. I've watched him on his Mike Hole videos, watched his videos, and to be honest with you, he's both of them, along with Paul Abernathy, helped me pass my master's.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
yeah. And
thanks, man.
so yeah, that's a big thank you to you guys.
Thank you.
But I'm actually bidding a powder coating booth or a powder coating business. And I'm kind of curious, is that a class 2 div 1 or is that a class 2 div 2 location?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's a class 2 div 1 in the booth and then a class 2 div 2 in outside of the booth.
Okay, so when you say powder coating, so a class 2 location is combustible dust, and a class 1 location is ignitable vapors like fumes from liquids. Yeah. So the difference between let's tackle both. Let's do class 1 and let's do class 2 really quick. A class 1 division 1 location is when you have ignitable concentrations of gas and air. You have ignitable concentrations under normal conditions. In other words, you walk into a room and light yourself a cigarette, you blow up. That's a class 1 division 1. Okay. Now, if there are people in that room, it's probably not a class 1 division 1, because unless you have breathing apparatus, you really can't be in a class 1 division 1. You know what I mean? So a class 1 division 1 should be a pretty rare occurrence if it's classified correctly. A class 1 division 2 is where you have ignitable mixtures like in storage. So like you've got a bucket of acetone and or a drum of acetone or acetylene or something, and it would only escape in the case of an accident. So it takes 2 bad things to create an explosion. The forklift operator drives into the barrel and I light a smoke at the same time. That's a class 1 division 2. Now, when I say light a smoke, I mean, obviously we don't do that in the industry. So, if we have some sort of a spill and we have an arcing or a sparking event in the room at the same time. That would be a class 1 division 2, where it takes 2 bad things to happen. Class 1 division 1 just takes 1 thing, 1 arc, 1 spark, and you blow up.
Got it.
That's not how we do class 2 locations. With a class 2 location, a class 2 division 1 location is when you have combustible dust in suspension in the air. And a class 2 division 2 is when you have accumulations of dust on equipment. There is a big difference in how things go kaboom based on whether or not the dust is accumulated or whether it's airborne. And I'll tell you about a video that you can watch that will make this clear as a bell. Search on YouTube, birthday cake fire. That's all you have to do. Just birthday cake fire. There is an amazing video that I showed during my area classifications class of this nice old, lady. It's her son's like 16th birthday or something, and she comes out and she's got this cake that she's made, and it is decked in powdered sugar, and she's got candles on it, and everybody's singing happy birthday and everybody's happy. She puts it down and the kid goes to blow out the candles, and when he blows, it blows the powdered sugar up into suspension. And when it does that, all of a sudden the whole room is on fire for about that long. And it's not scary or anything. It's just funny to watch it. But that is combustible dust in suspension. When we have airborne combustible dust, that is a whole different ballgame than when we have accumulations of combustible dust. So Ryan, what I would tell you is if you are spraying, if you have airborne combustible dust, that is a class 1 division 1. Or excuse me, a class 2 division 1.
Okay. Yep. Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. We got Dennis joining. Sorry, Ryan. Dennis, we're just
outside of the booth because of the fans. So
yeah,
if you're wiring outside of the booth, how would you classify it?
Well, again, if it's just outside of it, is it the normal? It really depends on what is the normal condition and what's the abnormal condition. So the normal condition inside the booth is combustibles in suspension under normal condition. That's a division 1. If you have suspensions due to abnormal conditions, that would be a division 2. So that would mean like some sort of mechanical failure, the exhaust system or something breaks down, and that results in suspensions of combustible dust. Then that would be a Class 2 Division 2 location.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to kind of just pick someone's brain that was more knowledgeable in hazardous locations.
Yeah, no problem.
Very cool. And by the way, Ryan, I just remembered you had the big Bitcoining factory you were bidding on.
Yes, I was.
Did you ever get that?
I did not. Well,
Okay.
Long story short, I charged them a consulting fee to go to all their job sites, and they don't want to pay the consulting fee. So I was like, well, if you don't want to pay a couple $100 consulting fee, you're not going to want to pay a big job fee.
Right.
So
very cool.
I let that one go.
Very cool. All right. So time out really quick. Dennis, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Dennis, I'm not sure, but we have our special guest, Ryan Jackson. He has his YouTube channel, Ryan Jackson. So if you go to youtube.com/, and he's a code guy. He has worked with Mike Holt. He writes his own books. He is pretty famous in this room because everybody knows him. Of course, I know him because I researched him as well. But, Ryan was telling how he helped him, when he was studying. So if you haven't met him, we're asking him code questions right now and, just kind of picking his brain. It's a rare opportunity. I mean, the only other time you're ever going to see Ryan again is probably when you're paying at a conference. So, thank you, channel. Right now, if you're watching this video or you're watching on Ryan's channel, we do these memberships and we do these channels for exactly this reason. We both have a passion to help you guys in whatever way we can. I have the passion because I'm blessed. God has blessed me tremendously, and it gives me the freedom to do this. All the better. Is it a side hustle? Of course it is. I got to feed my family too. But like I tell you, and I can tell Ryan even more than me, at least I try to monetize and bring some money. And Ryan is strictly on YouTube, giving it to you for free. It's like almost a nonprofit, Ryan. I think you should.
It almost is, and it's funny because, like one of the things I do as a hobby is I turn wood on a wood lathe. And I'm not very good at it anymore because I haven't done it as much recently. But like I used to have people that wanted me to like make them a bowl or a vase or something out of wood, and they would want to pay me for it. And I would say, listen, I do not want to get paid for this. The last thing on earth I want is another job. Right? Turning wood on my lathe is fun. If you're going to start paying me to do it, it is not going to be fun anymore. So this needs to remain my hobby, and that's just the way I feel about it. So with me and YouTube right now, I do it 100% free because I don't post a video every 7 days or every 10 days. I post when I have time, and because of that, look, if you don't want to subscribe, then don't subscribe. But I'm also not asking anybody for any money. So with me not asking for money, hopefully I don't have any expectations. I do a video when I want to do a video, and if that's not enough for your free money, well, then I'm sorry. That's kind of the way I look at it.
I think a lot of people think subscribing costs something. That's what I've heard on YouTube. Like people don't subscribe because they think it costs something. But if you're watching this video, subscribing is free. That's just a thank you. It's almost like giving a thumbs up. Unfortunately, just like everything else, everybody wants to know and they think you're popular or this or that because of your subscriptions. Well, Ryan's living proof right here. Subscriptions isn't what it's really about. It's not what it's about for me because I picked a niche. I didn't pick do it yourself, DIY, right? If I did DIY, I'd have a broader margin. But smash that like, subscribe to the channels. That's what we do. That's what we got you guys on here. So guys, it's open up to Ryan. Ryan, you're free to stay as long as you want. Once we open it up, we'll be talking about all kinds of stuff. Sometimes we even start talking about stuff non-electrical, but any code things, guys, you guys got anything going on? Ryan's a great resource. Again, definitely go as soon as we're done. If you haven't subscribed. Martin, got a question?
Yes. Recently, I was applying for a panel change permit, but I run into one issue with PG&E because you need to have the 36 inches to the main panel. So they were saying that we need to move it from where it is right now to another part of the house. But I was thinking, what will be the best way to do this, or how are you guys doing it? Because basically most of the panels that I have seen in California, the gas is like right there, right next to it. So
Yeah,
it's not
right
the
underneath it. Yep.
the 36 inches. So it's like now they all have to move to the other, let's say if it's on the right side, they all have to move to the left in the front, or they will move to the other side of the house. And how would you use that box, the old meter box, to splice those wires and bring them into the new panel? Or how are you guys doing that? Because basically,
That's a
I'm
great
new.
question, Martin.
I'm just starting my company. I just have 3 months, but I was like, because when I was doing service, like probably 6 years ago, we didn't have to do that. We just go replace the same panel and just put the new one in, 200 amps, no problem, a ground rod. But now it's all changed, and I'm like, how are they doing it now?
Well, that's a tough one because it's not a code issue. The NEC does not care if your panel board is next to your gas meter. We do not care. They can be right next to them. So if the utility has clearance requirements, well, then you have to deal with those. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's like I tell people, you don't have to do anything the utility says unless you want electricity.
Right.
If you want them to turn on power, then you kind of do. So they're kind of the boss, you know. So if they're telling you that you have to relocate equipment, you're
Yep.
you know you're really you're
Stuck.
If they
Yeah,
say
a quick timeout for that, Ryan, because this is going on Martin. Ryan, by the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you may know, but the utilities trump the NEC. If they tell you something, even if the code, if they can tell you to put the panel upside down, I believe, and technically they trump the NEC, do they not? Or is that not true?
Not really.
Okay.
No, it really is two different animals. You know, the NEC, the utility can't really. I mean, if the NEC, excuse me, if the utility told you that you have to do something that is a code violation, that's a problem.
Okay.
Because me as an inspector, I can't accept that. You know, utility.
Now the utility gives you a spot sheet and they write it, and sometimes they've written stuff on there, and I'm like, you know, that's not going to work for me because of whatever code violation or issues that I have. It might be even the amount, you know, it's sometimes utility, but sometimes any code, you know, the drop wires running over the roof or whatnot. But I always usually tell my customers, look, as far as you go, Martin, wherever they spot it, that's their rule. I cannot, like he said, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah. So the NEC, and this is found in Article 90 in Section 90.2 B5. The NEC gives exemption for utility installations for service drops and service laterals. So a service drop or a service lateral is defined in Article 100 as the conductors starting at the utility source and stopping at the service point. Okay, so what's the service point? Well, that might be the most important definition in the code because that's where the NEC starts.
Takes over. Got it.
The service point is where we start. And the service point is wherever the utility points to it and says, that's the service point.
Got it.
The utility says, hey, look, upstream, it's our problem. Downstream, it's your problem. Wherever they point to and they say that, that's where the NEC starts. So as far as the NEC is concerned, the utility wires could be laying on top of the roof because we don't cover those wires in the NEC. That's utility stuff.
Right.
And if the utility said, hey, we're going to make you put these wires, or let's say underground. If the utility says, hey, we want you to bury these things 7 feet deep, can they make you do that? Yeah, that's their rules. Could they also say, I don't want you to bury them any deeper than 6 inches? Could they say that? Sure, that's up to them, right? But that's not a code violation because that's not code stuff. That's utility stuff.
Article 100,
So, we start at the service point, and downstream of that, it's ours to deal with. And if the utility wants us to do something that's a code violation, that's a problem because the authority having jurisdiction, the electrical inspector, they have to ensure that the job complies with the code. And if it doesn't, then I can't pass it.
Awesome.
Because anything after the main breaker is a feeder considered, correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything downstream of the service disconnect is either a feeder or a branch circuit. Yep, 100%. So Martin, you were talking about, can I use the existing enclosure to splice in and relocate? Absolutely. We can absolutely splice service conductors. I think they talk about it in section 230.42. It just says, yep, just follow the regular old splicing rules. But there is a change that happened in the 2020 code. And it said that effective January 1st of 2023, so this still isn't even in the code yet. If you're splicing service conductors, your splicing device has to be specifically marked for splicing service conductors. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, when we have a fault on feeder conductors or branch circuit conductors, when we have a fault, we have the luxury of a breaker tripping, or a fuse opening, right?
Sure.
You're only going to have thousands of amps of current for like one cycle. Well, upstream of the service disconnect, if those service conductors have a fault, you're going to have 10,000 amps for however long it takes for that transformer to open. So because of that, the testing, the test requirements for splicing equipment say that if you're splicing service conductors, you have to satisfy all these different tests that UL specifies, because they're going to get higher currents for a longer duration of time. So for right now, you can splice them with whatever you want. But come January 1st of 2023, you're going to have to splice service conductors with some sort of a special splicing device that has passed that test. And when we have new requirements like that are going to require new products, a lot of times we'll add a future notice, like a future date of when it comes in, because we need to give the manufacturers notice. Right. We can't just say, hey, the rules have changed. You better have a product right now that complies. Well, hey, the manufacturer has to have time to figure it out too. So if it's a change like that, we'll say, hey, listen, in 3 years, this is going to be the rule. So you better come up with some way to satisfy it.
Awesome. I got 2 questions on that too, but again, I want to open it up to the guys because we're here for you guys first. I have a question on Martin that I run into all the time that you guys might run into, that inspector has caught me and it flip-flops, but I'll talk about that. And then anything else, guys? Any other code questions?
No.
Victor?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead,
okay. Making sure you hear me. Ryan, I appreciate the content you put out. Some of the stuff I've been watching in the past couple of years, like stuff you go over, is just mind blowing. Like I think the last one I watched was disposals and dishwashers. That was a cool thing I never knew about. But anyways, I install generators, like whole home generators, where I have to basically do my bonding in the ATS, separate from where my panel has to now become like the sub panel. And here in Texas, I run we have basically our ground rod, which is our main electrode, and then we have our slab that has a UFER. It's not really a UFER. It's just we're bonding it to the service. And so what I've been running into, and that's just a question for me. The inspectors really haven't been saying anything, but so once I relocate my bonding to the transfer switch, which is service rated, I now have in the panel, I have a number 4, number 6 wire that's bonded to the slab, and then sometimes, in some cases, either a water or gas lines. Those can be smaller, but my main one is that UFER bond, or that slab bond, which technically it's not a grounding electrode. So when I splice it, can I use non-reversible means? Do you understand what I'm asking?
I do understand your question. I absolutely do. So you're looking to relocate it. So really, and this is where definitions are so important. So there's a rule, and you're talking about it. It's found in 250.68C, as in Charlie, that says grounding electrode conductors cannot be spliced unless it's spliced irreversibly. So what is a grounding electrode conductor? If you go to Article 100, that goes from the service disconnect to the dirt, basically, to the grounding electrode, or from a separately derived system to a grounding electrode. It would not include things like a bonding jumper. So let's just say, and I know this isn't the question you asked, but let's say I've got a wire that goes from the service disconnect down to a ground rod. That's a grounding electrode conductor. If I had another wire that went from ground rod to ground rod, that is not a grounding electrode conductor. That's a bonding jumper. And you could splice that thing with a twist-on wire connector as far as we're concerned, because that's not a grounding electrode conductor by definition. So the wire that you're describing goes from the service disconnect to what you said is some rebar that's in the slab. And really, it depends on if that rebar is a concrete encased electrode. So the way I'd have to answer that is you would go to 250.52A3, and that tells us what a concrete encased electrode is, a U for ground. And it says that it's basically a piece of rebar that's number 4 or bigger, with 2 inches of concrete encasement in a footing or foundation. And that's part of it. It has to be in the footing or foundation, or it's not a grounding electrode. So when you say that it's in the floor slab, if it's not continuous, if the rebar is not tied in to the footing, that's not a grounding electrode, because the rebar has to be in the footing or foundation in order for it to count as a grounding electrode. So if the thing you're describing is not a grounding electrode, then that bare wire that goes from your service disconnect to the rebar in the floor, I don't even know that it has a name. It's just a wire that goes from there to there. And how would you splice it? However you wanted. You could use a twist-on wire connector, or you could use a butt splice, whatever you wanted to use.
Yeah, I spoke to the foundation guys here multiple times about it, and they have a plastic barrier that, it's not in direct contact with the earth, So I think it's just a means of just I don't honestly. So some of the inspectors and some of the things around here are kind of interesting. Compared to some other, I'm a transplant from another state, from another area, from the Northwest. So things are a lot more lenient here. It seems like it's not as strict. So it kind of bugs me too, because I see a lot of weird stuff, and so.
Yeah, and when you're trying to do it right and you feel like other people aren't and they're getting away with it, that can be frustrating. So yeah, Victor, I what you described to me, once you said there's plastic under the footing and foundation, that thing is not that's not a concrete encased electrode. So you could splice that however you wanted. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, you could splice it with bubble gum, because that is not that is not a bonding jumper, that is not a ground, that's not an anything. So,
and if I may, just one little thing in regards to this question. So, if I was to, let's just say I had it'd be a main bonding jumper, or I don't know. Excuse the terms. I'm not as literate in it. But so if I had to extend something through it's a bonding jumper, like if I would take my EGC and upsize it to, let's just say, a 4 or a 6 to be able to, I think there's a section in the code that talks about it where you can upsize the equipment ground conductor to that size, so that then if I did have like a water bond or a gas, I could upsize the equipment grounding conductor and then basically splice it and extend it to the service disconnect, right?
Yeah, it's a really unusual allowance, and it's relatively new. They added it in the 2017 code, and previous editions, I don't want to say it was allowed or not allowed, it wasn't talked about. So in the 2017 code, they added it in 250.121. It says, look, you can use an equipment grounding conductor as a grounding electrode conductor. So you can serve both purposes with the same wire, as long as you satisfy the rules for both. And some of the rules for both would mainly where you would have a problem is if you put that equipment ground in a metal conduit, because when you put when you put a grounding electrode conductor in a metal conduit, you have to bond it at each end, which
put it in PVC. That's what I learned.
Yeah, exactly. But what you're describing, you probably have SE cable, right? Because it's a house. So you got SER or maybe SEU, depending on where you are in the country. So yeah, using the equipment grounding conductor as your grounding electrode conductor, it is allowed if it's sized correctly and it meets all the rules for both. And honestly, in residential, it's pretty easy to meet the rules for both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and does it matter whether the conductor is cut or spliced too? Some of it, like again, when our rule came out in Los Angeles where we had to double ground rod it, they first said you can't cut the second jumper to the second rod. Well, now they changed that rule where you can splice, you know, you can do it through the splice. And then we try, of course, to make it non-broken, and then just take it right back into the water so that we got one solid connection going back. But usually, guys, when we do that, I look at the cost. What's cheaper, running two or not cutting it because you're already halfway down the road? But I get that. Awesome questions. Jason, you got any questions? Dennis? Any code stuff? I'm going to ask you a question based on what Martin said, but I want to give these guys an opportunity first. And Ryan, again, thank you for staying. Again, if you got to bail out anytime, appreciate it.
I'm happy to stick around all night. If you guys are done answering code questions, I'll just listen to you guys talk about.
Don't say that. We're hungry electricians. We can stay on this thing for hours.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
If you guys don't have a question or you're still thinking about it, my question was, you know what I ran into, Ryan, is, and I think I know what the answer is. I think it's going to be the UL listing, but let me know if you know. So we're doing a lot of ADU units, for example, auxiliary dwelling units in Los Angeles. They let anybody and their mother have an apartment literally built on the same property as your house now. Well, you know, the utilities only want one drop with a 2-gang meter or whatnot. And so when Martin was saying that we want to gut that out and make it a junction box, now some inspectors, if it's a meter main, so it's a meter main, one box, we're taking the meter out, we're blanking it, we're gutting everything on the inside, and they're still not allowing us to. Oh, sorry, I take it back. They're not allowing us to use it as a sub panel now after we gut out the meter section. I believe because it's not UL rated as a sub panel, it's UL listed as a meter main. So some inspectors have made us. Where I found the rule come, and I totally get it, is if you don't have the ability to do an isolated neutral, then I get it. So what I did is I wonder why the inspectors are telling that. I went on the field to educate my guys, and I said, guys, look, this one, there's no way to isolate the neutral, therefore you can't make it a sub panel. I'm assuming that's it, but is there anywhere in there is that, you know, I'm taking the meter out, I'm blanking it, and can I use the rest as a sub panel besides that rule that I know about?
Well, you're 100% right, and that's exactly where that's coming from, and it is a listing issue. And there's a phrase that we have for service equipment, right? Service equipment is the service disconnect, the first place you can shut off the utility. Mm-hmm. For service equipment, there's a rule in the code 230.66 that says the service equipment has to be marked as what they say suitable for use as service equipment. Mm-hmm. Very specific phrase. What suitable for use as service equipment means is that there's a way to connect the neutral to the enclosure. All right. Mm-hmm. If it's marked suitable only as service equipment, that's because the factory pretty much welded that neutral to the enclosure. Right. You can't undo it. And if that's the case, then yeah, you can't use it as you know, as a
even if you put an isolated neutral block in there. Technically can't because the UL listing
is listed only for service, then you can only use it for service.
Yeah. And I knew that because logically that's it. The problem was most of these panels are missing all those stickers and they're gone, so you can't see it. But I mean, we run into that a lot, and I know a lot of guys do. So thank you for clearing that up. I really appreciate it. Guys, anything else for Ryan? Nothing? Okay, one more thing, Ryan. I was going to say, hey, we got Ryan on the phone. I said, let's take a survey with 3 of us. Lewis was supposed to come in. He's another member of the channel. He asked me for the link. I don't know why he's in here. But Ryan, can we pick your next topic that you talk about? Does anybody have a topic that you'd like Ryan to cover?
you can add to my to-do list. I can't guarantee.
Okay, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
But you can absolutely. There's a decent chance that the answer is yes. If you have something you want me to cover and you spit it out, yeah, there's a decent chance that it will be next.
I haven't seen the video. Yeah, I haven't seen the video Victor talked about because I'm going to check out the dishwasher and the garbage disposal, which, you know, I'm really pissed off about the whole GFI rule. It's getting pretty crazy. You know, I still tell my customers a GFI and a refrigerator. I get it. It's got water going to it, but boy, that's almost a death sentence for older refrigerators, you know? So those are some of the things. And, just like you said with some of that code, when arc faults came out, boy, what a nightmare arc faults were, right? And so,
yeah, well, and it's interesting because you mentioned that it might not work for older refrigerators, and I'm actually finding the opposite personally. But now I don't wear tools anymore. But
Sure.
I'm finding the opposite. I'm finding that brand new equipment, some of it is now becoming incompatible. And
yeah,
I'll tell you what, I'm on the standard technical panel for UL 943, and what that means is that's for GFCIs. So the standard technical panel, we write the requirements for the product standard. So the GFCI has to do this, and it must not do this, right? We don't tell you where it has to be. That's in the code.
right.
We write what the GFCI has to do, and we're in the middle of trying to address this issue because here's the thing: GFCIs historically, they were designed for use on a 60 hertz circuit with a normal looking, nice, beautiful sinusoidal waveform that goes up and down, and it's pretty. Well, that's not reality anymore. Now, when you have a fancy pants refrigerator that has a variable speed drive, an adjustable frequency drive in it, and it chops the sine wave, that GFCI doesn't know how to handle that. So it's not even necessarily that it's not that the GFCI isn't tripping and we have unsafe energized stuff. It's that sometimes the GFCI is tripping when there was not an unsafe condition. And that's because we don't test GFCIs for really high frequency. And that's something, in my opinion, that we need to start dealing with. Because again, gone are the days of a nice, pretty little sinusoidal sine wave. Everything now has DC switching power supplies and adjustable speed drives and everything else. Yeah. And I think we need to change the product standard to address that, because that's the reality of it.
Yeah, and I think when you UL list it, shouldn't it be UL listed to what the code is? And I don't know if there's a connection there. I've never asked. You'd probably know better than I would. When a refrigerator manufacturer makes it, they've got to test it on standard GFIs that are available. And I don't know if they do, because it is a big problem.
Well, the thing is, an appliance has to satisfy the leakage current test requirements for the UL standard. So basically, a GFCI opens between 4 and 6 milliamps of leakage current. Okay, so 5 milliamps plus or minus 1. A cord and plug connected appliance is not allowed to have more than 0.75 milliamps of leakage current. So we test the leakage current, but we don't necessarily have to put it on a GFCI and make sure the GFCI would hold. Because before, testing for leakage current ensured that the GFCI works.
Right.
Because that's how a GFCI works.
Right.
But now it's the leakage current. It's not the leakage current. It's the GFCI not understanding what's happening in the circuit and opening up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult. When we write standards for UL, and when products get tested for by the product standard, whether you're testing it through UL or Intertech or whoever, they still test to UL standards in America. We do have to ensure that they comply with the code. A listed product has to be compatible with the code. That's found in 90.7 of the NEC. So yes, we do. If your instructions tell you to make a code violation, that should not be a listed product. If your product requires a code violation to work, that should not be a listed product. But again, we're really in kind of a black hole right now with GFCIs and high frequency events.
Yeah, we're living in that here in Iowa. As of the 2020 code, we're supposed to GFCI air conditioners, and Iowa has, well, at least where I'm at, has not adopted that code yet, because the manufacturers cannot make a product that is making it safe for the elderly or whoever has maybe COPD or breathing problems to do that. So I think it is in 2023 that they gave the manufacturers time to make a product to be able to work with the GFCI outside.
Yeah, so that was a tough code change. I'm not on code making panel 2, but I know a lot of people that are, and they're the ones that write Article 210 and 210.8F is the rule you're talking about. And they put it in, and then they found that there was one specific manufacturer of a ductless mini split system that the AC flat out would not work on a GFCI. And it was found that the reason for that, Ryan, and I thought this was really interesting, is when that manufacturer tested the air conditioning, they tested it to a European standard, not an American standard. So in Europe, in the UK, I shouldn't say Europe, in the UK anyway, right?
Yeah.
I'm an American, so when I think of Europe, I just think of England, right? I mean, so anyway.
Shout out Artisan Electric, right?
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
So in the UK, they don't use GFCIs. They use what they call residual current devices, or RCDs. But they work on the same principle. But instead of having a whole panel full of GFCIs, they protect the entire house with one RCD.
Smart.
And it trips, I think, at 30 milliamps, maybe 20 milliamps. We choose to protect individually at 4 to 6 milliamps. Well, that air conditioner that was problematic would work just fine in the UK because its leakage current was like 15 milliamps. So it wouldn't trip the RCD.
Right.
And for hardwired air conditioners, UL standards don't require that product to be tested for leakage current. So when that rule came out, everybody figured it would work. And then suddenly there's just one particular product and it wasn't working. And that's a problem. You know, I mean, look, in Montana, Jeff, if your air conditioner stops working, probably not a big deal. If you're
I hope that,
you know, if you're in Phoenix, if you're in Vegas and your air conditioner stops working, there's bodies on the ground. Really
well, I'm heat pump. We were heat pump, so it's still going to matter.
Yeah.
And I hope that manufacturer's not Mitsubishi because I'm putting the whole H2I system in the new house. So
at
least
well,
the
NEC issued what we call a tentative interim amendment, which is kind of an emergency measure. And we changed the code mid-code cycle and said, look, for a ductless mini split, this requirement comes in January 1st of 2023. So hopefully the manufacturers will have addressed it already. But that was a rule. Look, I'm in Utah. Utah took it out of the code. Massachusetts took it out of the code. There's probably as many states that took it out as there are that left it in. That rule got amended out of a lot of adoptions.
Yeah. I'm sure they're going to get instant feedback on the field and say, whoa, this just ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
Was there a huge flood in someone's basement that made everybody GFCI all basement receptacles then?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. I'm an advocate for GFCI protection. I am. The GFCIs do one thing. They stop they stop an electric shock from becoming a fatal electrocution. I believe in GFCIs. The numbers don't lie. They work, and there are less dead bodies now than there were in 1971 when they came into the code.
Right.
In my
Take a look at pools.
In my opinion, when we add GFCI requirements, we need substantiation. And I hate to be this guy, and everybody can disagree, and that's okay. This is my opinion. I think when we change GFCI rules, we need to be able to point to real world incidents, and we need to say, look, this is why we're changing it. And historically, that has been the case. For basements, that was not a well substantiated code change. It was not. So we've long required protection for unfinished basements, and now it's basements. Listen, my house, half of it's finished and half of it's unfinished. So here's the problem. Number one, when is a basement an unfinished basement versus a finished basement? Does it matter if the walls are painted or if there's carpet? Listen, I used to inspect in a city, Draper City, Utah, where we had some monster houses. 26,000 square foot was the biggest one I did. And I've done some huge houses where their basement, finished basement, like the kitchen costed more than my house. The entire basement, the floor was stamped concrete. No idea why anybody would do that, but they did, and they loved it. It didn't require GFCI protection. Now, that's probably, it's a conductive floor. Probably should have. you know. But in my basement, the parts that are finished, it has carpet. That's not the same risk as standing on concrete in an unfinished basement. It's not. So when they added that code change, it was based on two things. Number one, what's a finished basement and what's not? Nobody can figure that out because it, and we want a code that everybody can agree on. But number two was the flooding issue. If your basement floods, even if you do have carpet, the carpet pad gets saturated and everything. Now, listen, I don't think that we can write code based on catastrophic failures. Right? You know what I mean? We can't. I mean, we can't write, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but we can't write building code requirements to make buildings airplane resistant. We can't. We can't do that. We can't write electrical code rules based on losing the utility neutral. If you lose the utility neutral, you are out of luck, man. You're out of luck. And we can't write code rules to fix that. And in my opinion, we really can't write code rules to deal with a basement flooding. You can't. Yeah. So to answer your question, Ryan, that was a GFCI change that I did not think was well substantiated.
Yeah. Is that also applied to walkout basements? Does that it applies to walkout basements as well?
Yeah.
Anything below grade.
If it needs to be a basement, and a basement is defined in the building code, and we handle walkout basements by measuring 6 feet away and a 50% rule and different things. So
yeah. That is kind of a bummer. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's where a whole house GFI comes in handy, right? Now you got the whole bottom done with a sub panel that's all GFI protected, because then individual GFI arc fault breakers. That's another thing.
And that's the thing. That's what's so funny is in my state, we removed all AFCI requirements from dwellings years ago. Oh, and I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what we did. So in Utah, when we saw the code change that said you have to GFCI everything in the basement, people lost their minds.
Yeah.
But what blew me away, and I could never figure this out, whenever I would travel to teach code changes, I would say like, oh man, here's a big change. GFCIs for the whole basement. And nobody cared. And I was like, guys, don't you see how big this is? And then finally it dawned on me. Everybody's putting AFCIs in the basement anyway. Mm-hmm. And the cost difference between an AFCI and an AFCI GFCI dual function is minimal. So it's like, that's really not a big change.
Right.
In my area, that was a huge change. So, yeah.
Yep. Very cool. Great information. Unbelievable. Ryan, I mean, I can't thank you enough. Again, I know you want to stay here all night. You're more than invited, but, guys, time to chat, man. And the cool part is you got Ryan here. He's an inspector. Some of the questions I was surprised. A lot of the new guys. I don't think we have a lot of new guys in here. Is like, how do I act in front of an inspector? And a lot of guys that I do coaching with are kind of ask me coaching questions. And I said, look, that inspector is a real guy too. He goes, respect the ones that deserve respect, and the ones that are running over you or stepping over their boundary, you just tell them, hey, with no disrespect, go, I understand you're here to inspect this job, but I would appreciate to be treated a little bit, more, whatever you need to do. Don't let them rock over you. I've had inspectors that walk in and think that they're the FBI. And I've got inspectors that walk in exactly what Ryan said, who explain it, because nobody knows everything. And Ryan's going to admit that. I'm going to admit that straight off the bat. No one, I always say, I know a lot of, here's the saying, I just messed it up with it. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot about one or two things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's kind of how it is. I usually will hire guys that compliment me, that compliment my weaknesses. If I'm not a big commercial guy, I'm going to get guys that do commercial, which I do now. If I'm not great in residential, because I've been in commercial my whole life, I might want to hire a guy that's better in residential. And so, my code guru, Ryan, was Jerry, a 325-pound big dude, best electrician ever on earth, had a memory like an elephant. I guess elephants remember everything, right? So he'd be my code guy, just like you, just spitting out. That was just never me. Not that because I didn't have interest in it. I loved it, but you can only focus. Your brain could literally only focus on certain things, right? In California, you got to focus on not getting sued and not getting and all that. And if you're married, of course, you got to focus on that. And so God bless you for loving that stuff. It's just great, and that's why this trade is so awesome for it, because we got such diversity here. So that's what it's about now. If you guys have been here already, I know Ryan, you have. Anybody got any jobs that they're getting into? Anybody got any bidding stuff? Anybody want to ask anybody any questions? Jason, we haven't heard much from you. Dennis, we haven't heard much from you. Tell us a little bit about your businesses, if you don't mind, Ryan. And as I said, you are more than welcome to stay. So anybody, just give us a little bit. Let us know a little bit about you. Victor, I just met you the other day when we did coaching. So, and you guys know about me because unfortunately I spill all my guts and everything on my channel. So any questions? Anything? Update us. How's everybody doing with their business? Remember, we're still picking low fruit right now. There's enough work to go around. Don't get spoiled. Things are going to happen, later on when the recession turns, and I think it's going to be coming close. I mean, even the house I'm building now, interest rates are going to be hitting 6%. I'm about to choke myself. When I started this thing, we were at 2.73%. So that's life changing. So I hope you guys are getting recession proof. You guys are getting customers that are going to be going through, the recession with no problem. And I explained a lot of that to you guys. But any questions? Anything going on that you guys want to share? Martin, I see you got a question.
Yes, I wanted to ask if any of you guys have any experience with Angie's List. I recently signed up, but I know there's been suits and fake leads and stuff like that. So I just wanted to give it a shot because April kind of get a little slow for me. So I wanted to find some options. So
yeah, run as fast as you can. Martin, you didn't do any coaching with me, right? You haven't.
Yes,
done
I
coaching,
did one time. Yes,
one. Yeah,
I
I remember. Look, I got my. I'm not trying to push my stuff, but listen, the money you're going to spend, I'm going to tell you, you're going to spend it very, very well. Talk to Joe Burnich about your website and getting you leveled up on Google and getting you up there in your area. We also have a marketing 101 course. It's going to cover like a bunch of different topics. It's literally 3 days away for Joe and Big West Marketing that I partnered up with. But listen, I'm telling you, for only a couple $100, this is what you're getting. You're going to get me explaining everything I've done and how I become successful and how you're going to use it as a tool. Just like you take a wire stripper to strip that wire in alignments, a flyer is not just, here's a flyer, have a nice day. I'm giving you some techniques and some tricks that I've learned along the years, not only in this business, that are going to blow your mind. It always does. And in coaching, sometimes I give that to you. So, but here's the cool part. At the end of that course, you're actually going to pick I'm giving you the flyer print ready, and I've got the printer to send it to that's got you ready to go. You're going to click one button. You are going to completely customize your flyer. For example, Victor, you said generators. I might do solar. So we have two areas where you're going to pick generator and solar, and then you're going to pick all the stuff. And I tell you how to diversify that flyer so that flyer lasts during winter if you're in seasonal territories, and summer. You don't want to make flyers every single time. You want to be as diverse. You want to make sure it covers some light commercial. You want to make sure it covers residential. You want to make sure it covers new construction. You want to make sure it covers remodel. And then we're going to have your coupon, and you're sending me the logo with your information. Boom, you're going to have it print ready to go. But it's going to be a 3-part. You're also going to get some other marketing stuff, and I'm going to tell you how to use it, how to level up your game. It's incredible. You got to do that, especially if you're new in your business. I just coached a gentleman 2 days ago. He's 60 years old, been in this game for 40 years. And he's reaching out because, he's just can't keep his guys busy. And I said, well, no disrespect to him. God bless him. He's an awesome electrician, way better than I'll ever be. But I said, how long have you been mining your own customers? For 40 years, how many customers do you have? In 4 years, guys, I tell you, if you do it right, in 4 years, I don't want to say be like me, be like you want to be. But for me, I advertise zero, not 1 penny in advertising. I go to my Yelp page. I haven't looked at it in 10 years. I might have negative reviews. I don't rely on any of that because my business is self-generating. The phone rings every single day because every customer I ever went to, not in the first 4 years, I should say that. It took me a couple of years to get this thing going. But after about 4 years, your phone will ring nonstop because everybody knows who you are. Look, 4 of you guys came in. You knew who Ryan was right away. Well, just think about that. Ryan's given all of you guys a flyer. He's giving you something that, quote unquote, now all of a sudden you knew who he was. I'm just kind of giving him a weird example, but getting the name out there, getting that connection is going to do it. And so super important. Martin, don't waste your money on Angie's List. Don't waste your money on leads. They give you the same lead they're giving to you. They're giving to 4 other guys that you're competing with. And you don't want to be the cheapest electrician in the room. Let those guys do it. Let them go out of business. What you want to do is you want to sell yourself, and every customer you get to, you want to make sure that you make them your marketing campaign. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Anyway.
thank you. Thank you.
Few thoughts. Jason, any thoughts or your question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was also one of those people who used the Michael Holt videos, which is how I knew Ryan already. My background is mostly industrial programming. A lot of it's been programming PLCs, HMIs, drives, and so about after 30 years, I went to get my test. North Carolina has 3 levels, so I just went ahead and skipped the first 2 levels and got my unlimited license.
Nice. What state, Jason?
North Carolina.
Oh, beautiful. Very cool. And now you got your license now? You're on your own?
Yes.
Very cool.
And
how long have you been licensed, or how long has your business been open?
My license was approved on the 30th of last month, and I've got first job. And my first job, they're buying all of the hardware, and I quoted it at $17,000. I figured it'd take a month.
Nice. Did you get it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've been working.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. Very cool. Very cool. Well, welcome. Thanks for sponsoring the channel. This is what it's all about. You just get to listen to good guest speakers. I try to line them up. Ryan, I sure do hope soon, sooner or later, not next time, because I know you're probably going to want to take a breather, but we're definitely going to have Ryan back, and maybe we'll have some bigger and better. Guys, I don't have a channel, and again, this is my out. My output where I get to vent, and my wife doesn't have to listen to stuff that's going to bore her. But this is what it's all about. If you guys are watching this on the rerun, I just say it again, please go see Ryan Jackson on his YouTube channel at Ryan Jackson. Most likely that's how you find me, or at youtube.com/Ryan Jackson. He is a must in your arsenal of tools. He's a must. Again, like and subscribe this channel. Please like and subscribe his channel. I'm thanking him again. Any other questions? Ryan, you got a question?
I just have a public service announcement for everybody here.
Here we go.
So my supplier told me, I guess it was last Friday, and I'm on a couple Facebook groups, that all PVC is going up anywhere from 13 to 18% in the next couple days. So if anybody is out to get any PVC, I've just heard now is the time to get it instead of waiting. And it's going to keep going up.
All right. That is awesome. By the way, I don't know if you guys know, I'm looking at that you said. Now that you said that, let me go to my channel, because I put a public service announcement on PVC. If you guys seen one of my latest videos, I am super heavy on lots of PVC, but my supplies run out as well. But I have like maybe 40 sticks of 5-inch right now. I've got like 20-30 sticks of 4-inch, because we're doing some of a little bit heavier commercial jobs, but I'm completely out of 1/2 inch and 3/4. So thank you for that. I always remind myself, get PVC, and I need to go and do that for sure.
Same
I'm going to see the date that I did my first one. I did my first video. I actually bought probably $5,000 in conduit the day that my supplier told me, and the price did double within a month. I just want to see when I did that video so we can see when prices went up. Remember when EMT was like $3.25? I think now it's like $9 for a stick of 1/2 inch EMT. It's just
And that's also the same with SER cable as well. SER has went up as well dramatically.
Yeah. I just signed a contract for $200,000 on an 8-unit luxury building apartment, and last second on the contract signing day, my builder said, I want to do all MC in the building, and I'm like, that ain't gonna happen. And then I looked it up, and it's about $40 more a roll, but I just looked it up like 3 days ago, and it went up another like $7 per so it's like $47 more than using my 12.2 Romex. So I put it in there. I said, I'll do whatever you want, but you're going to pay for the price according to the time we do it. We're still about 4 months out on wiring, so God willing, unfortunately I don't have much faith in that it's going to go down at all, but we'll see what happens. So that's another thing, guys. You got my videos on warehouses. You know, that's why I'm a firm believer in stocking your garage, your warehouse. Remember, buy a dollar in the bank loses money. I'm not a financial guru. I'm not telling you that. Go see Economic Ninja. This guy that I followed saved me $80,000 on my lumber. But that dollar will depreciate every single day. Wire in my warehouse isn't a what do they call it? Not a commodity. So it will go up and down. But you know what? Every time it goes up, I'm making money, right? So plain and simple. If you know you're on the upside, purchase it. If you're buying it at half price, whatever closeout you find, like a lot of times Home Depot used to sell you a pallet full of Romex and you get a nice discount. Now they don't. That roll of 1,000 feet of Romex used to be like at least $30 cheaper if you priced out 4 rolls. Now it's the same price. So yeah, you got to be really careful. Any other questions, guys? Ryan, of course.
Yeah, along the same vein, you know, embracing new technologies, I think, is really important. And copper clad aluminum it's already in a lot of markets. In some, it's not. But my recommendation is to wrap your hands around it. This is bar stock copper clad aluminum. This is from the manufacturer, and if you can see it, it's maximum 90% aluminum inner core, and then a minimum of 10% copper around it. And this rod, they stretch into, you know, Romex, basically. I get a 14.2 or a 12.2. And this is actually a 14.2 copper clad aluminum NM cable. Now, the ampacity is the same as aluminum, okay, because aluminum is doing the heavy lifting as far as the current is concerned. We wrap it in copper for termination purposes. So there's no special termination requirements, because splicing copper to copper is copper to copper. Now, why on earth would I have a 14.2 you know, NM cable? Well, because in the 2023 code, it looks like it might allow for 10 amp circuits for lighting, which would be a real game changer. And why not? They're LEDs.
It's LED. Yeah,
you know,
they're LEDs. Absolutely.
Right? But that may or may not pass, but you can definitely get, and really I misspoke, this is 12.2, which is why it's white, is you would put it on a 15 amp circuit.
Yeah, right.
Right. So,
yep.
Yeah. So anyway, this is 12.2 copper clad aluminum. Is it, you know, is it cheap? I mean, nothing's cheap right now. I mean, the global supply chain shut down for 2 years. Nothing is cheap. But the thing about aluminum is it's a lot less volatile than copper as far as the prices going up and down. I mean, will aluminum go up? Sure. Yeah, aluminum goes up, but it doesn't go up and down quite as rapidly as copper. And, you know, I hate to talk about it, but, you know, with what's going on in the Ukraine, nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, man, one thing that a war does is it burns up your copper. Because brass is an alloy of what? Copper and tin. Right. And if we have to start manufacturing bullets, you don't know anything about the price of copper yet. You know what I mean? So, and again, that's I hate to say that because that sounds tone deaf. The important thing is the people. Of
course, no, it's reality. No. It's reality. Reality to me is not tone deaf. It's reality.
Yeah, it's the reality. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, so anyway. I'm telling people to embrace copper clad aluminum. Don't be scared of it. It's not the stuff it's not the aluminum from 1971 that was burning down houses. It's not, you know.
Right.
So don't be afraid to look at new technologies and don't be afraid to embrace them. I think copper clad aluminum, if it's not already in your area, it's going to be in your area tomorrow. So, you know, be aware of it.
That's exactly what I was saying. It's not, I haven't even seen it. I've never even seen that. Has anybody seen that? Copper clad? No, right? Okay, breaking news. Ryan Jackson has just introduced all of YouTube to copper clad Romex. Anybody seen it before? Honestly, that's awesome.
I'm terrible at tooting my own horn, if you will, but I'm going to have on my YouTube channel in May, and I have to look up the date. I'm going to have a live stream with Copper Weld, with the manufacturer of it, a gentleman named Peter Gracer, who is pretty much, it's understood that if anybody knows anything about copper clad aluminum, he is the guy. So I'm going to have a live stream on the product here next month. Yeah, it's April right now. So in May, we're going to be talking about it. And by then, we'll know a little bit more about what the 2023 might have to say. So, take a look for that. And like I say, it's like when I was an electrical contractor, I remember, or when I was an electrician, I was never a contractor, but I used to subscribe to different trade magazines, and some of the articles I didn't even read because I didn't care about them. You know what I mean? I was a commercial guy. I didn't want to know about residential. I didn't want to know about low voltage. But even if I didn't read the articles, you know what I did? I looked at all the advertisements because I wanted to see all the cool new stuff that was out there. Because I'm all about cool new stuff that makes my life easier. Yeah, Dennis, you're holding up a copy of EC&M. Even if those articles don't help you, because some will and some won't, look at the new products that are out there.
Absolutely. Who's the manufacturer of that copper clad?
Yeah, it's a company called Copper Weld that does it.
And that's the person you're going to have?
They were the ones that created copper clad steel. Like, a ground rod, of course, is copper clad steel. It's not pure copper, so they've been making it for 100 years, quite literally for 100 years with copper clad steel. And with aluminum, as soon as you expose aluminum to oxygen, a layer of aluminum oxide forms.
Right.
And that's a non-conductor. And that's the problem with it. So with copper clad aluminum, when they manufacture it, as part of the manufacturing, they have a big old bar of aluminum. They scrape it to get rid of the oxide, and then they follow with the copper. So it doesn't even have a chance to form aluminum oxide. It's a cool process on how they make it.
We need to get that out. I mean, Ryan, if you do talk to the guy, I've got a build going on right here in Montana. If he wants me to get it out there, I'll be glad to that's a good option, to get some influencers to start getting it out there.
They can't make it fast enough to keep up with demand. And here's the thing. You know what they're doing? And you guys will love this. You buy a roll of copper clad aluminum and you put a sign on your house. And it sucks that we live in this world, but you put a sign on the construction site that says, this house is copper clad aluminum. It has no recycle value. Don't steal it because you're not going to get anything.
Right.
Yeah. True story. It's theft current.
Part of the reason I moved to Montana. Ryan, go for it. With the copper cat aluminum, is there any like faults or problems with terminations as far as lugs, breakers, wire nuts, all that, or does it just still fall under copper to copper and aluminum to aluminum and all that?
Well, yeah, really, when you're splicing copper clad aluminum to copper, it's copper touching copper, and some of the products, like for a twist-on wire connector, some of the products will say copper only. And the only reason it says that is because 50 years ago, when they tested the things, they weren't thinking about copper-clad aluminum. It's not that they tested it and it failed. It's just that copper-clad aluminum wasn't really a thing, so they didn't test for it. But really, copper-clad aluminum to copper is a copper-to-copper connection. So the dissimilar metal issue just isn't there, and the copper-clad aluminum itself, it's bonded metallurgically. So there's not, there's not any galvanic corrosion that's going to happen within the conductor. And yeah, when you splice it or terminate it to a lug, it's basically like splicing a copper conductor. It has the ampacity of aluminum, but it terminates like copper.
So what about the expansion on that? Because that's the big reason we don't use the aluminum to the copper, because of the expansion. So how's that inner working with that outer? Again, we're going to wait for that video, but I'm sure there's an expansion value where that copper is kind of keeping that aluminum in check.
Yeah. And to be honest, Jeff, I can't speak to it. I'm not a metallurgist. I'm not a chemist. I'm honest. If I don't know something, I just say, I don't know.
I hear you.
Yep.
And like audio, someone told me that audio electrons travel on the surface of the wire. I'm interested. I don't know, but I wonder how electrons in electricity travel.
Well,
is it more to the center? Is it using, because stranded, obviously we use it for several reasons, but also.
Yeah. So that's a concept called skin effect. And skin effect is a function of frequency. And at 60 hertz, skin effect just isn't that big.
Doesn't there. Gotcha.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. When you have higher frequencies, skin effect matters. And in fact, like for coaxial cable, that's where copper clad steel first came in, was for high frequency radio and things like that, because Why not have copper clad steel? The inside part isn't doing anything. It's the perimeter when you're dealing with high frequencies like that. But at 60 hertz, it's still the middle of the conductor that's lifting the heavy weight.
Gotcha. I just looked it up. October 28th, 2020 for Ryan. He just stepped away. I did a video on PVC. It's titled, I put the link right there for you guys. Let me see. Electrical PVC conduit shortage. What you need to do now, October. So I probably have a video there of what I did. But I specifically remember dumping. It had to be at least $5,000, and it saved my butt for sure. Because I had actually, you know, that's when we were starting my Starbucks shopping center project, and I knew I had, 5,000 feet of PVC to drop into that parking lot. So that's when we picked that up. I do remember that specifically. So again, another thing, Ryan, I was just saying, I put the link, October 28th, 2020. It was just before I started my Starbucks shopping center. And this is where YouTube helps us in the trade, just right there. You know, if whoever saw that video and was about to do a big PV, I would have never known. Ryan, you tell me 13%. I'm in contact with my distributor, but maybe they don't know your distributor got wind because he's got that contact that we don't. Again, if you're a member of the channel, here's the plug, right? Ryan, I do that a lot, right? If you're a member of the channel, you just heard from Ryan, your $4.90, $2.99, $5.99 just saved you X amount of dollars. Go get your PVC tomorrow. All right, guys, anything else? We're going into an hour and about a half, so that's about average for us. Well, I don't want to miss anything. You guys got anything else you want to talk about? This will be put onto the YouTube channel probably tomorrow or the next day. So you guys can obviously receive it. Ryan, again, I send you a full copy to do whatever you want as editing wise. I'm not going to say it enough, Ryan. Just a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. I tend to call people. Me and Ryan honestly met, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. Technically, we met 4 days ago. But because we have a chance to know each other through this source, you kind of get to know someone. And, you know, I tend to scare people off in the beginning, and I hope I didn't, Ryan, because I'm very energetic and I'm very business-minded, and I'm very, let's go, we can do this. Let's help some people. Let's do. Ryan was already there. I mean, as I said, way steps ahead of me because, truth be told, he's doing this because it's a passion and he loves it and he doesn't want to get paid for it right now, which I'll try to convince him later on maybe, but but he's got a good life, I'm sure. Same thing with me. I actually do it because I have a passion for you guys, but of course I have a passion for business as well. Anybody other questions? Yeah,
you know,
ahead,
in all honesty, to speak to that, and granted, my business is unique. My business isn't quite the same as your guys's, but
Very
you know,
unique.
for me doing free YouTube videos, that gets my phone ringing. So I'll give you a free video, no problem, and then you'll hire me to fly out to wherever, DFW, Texas, or somewhere, and I'll end up charging several $1,000s for a seminar. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not all charity work, you know.
I totally understand.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and Jeff, your YouTube channel is advertising you as well, just in a different way, you know, because I'm like you, I don't spend any money on advertising per se, but you know, when I'm out and about and when I'm teaching, I'm not only teaching, I'm also representing myself. I'm advertising while I'm working, you know, and as soon as you got the hat on right now, when you show up to a job site and you got the shirt on, you're both working and you're advertising, you know. Yeah. So it's not all charity work. It's not all just
I hear you. Those electricians that desperately need you at eBay right now, take your videos to their boss and say, we need to get this guy here. By the way, guys, okay, Ryan, you didn't see my video. I know the story's been out there because everybody does it. You know, marking the X, knowing where to mark the X. Did you guys watch that video? Ryan, you know the story about the nuclear power plant and breaks down and they got to get the tech out there and he comes out and he charges $100,000 and they're like, he was here for an hour. He sends a breakdown of the bill and, you know, because the plant manager's upset and he goes, $100,000, you were here for like 6 hours. Can you give me a breakdown? Haha, I'm going to get you. And the guy goes back and sends an invoice, goes, yeah, absolutely. Marking a black X on the part that was bad, $1, knowing which part to mark it on, $999,000. So Ryan's that guy with the coat that comes and marks your black X, you guys. There you go. That's a perfect one. Well, listen, Ryan, I completely thank you. I know these guys thank you. We super appreciate it, man. I know your time is super. Yeah, I do. I'm going to wrap it up, guys, if we have nothing else going on. You know, last second, anything else? All right, so we will see you on the next one. Keep an eye out for the Paperwork 101. I'm calling it the ultimate Paperwork for Electrical Contractors 101. I've got one for those of you guys, again, maybe not you guys here or have coached, those of you guys on the channel that have been asking me for my paperwork, A lot of legal stuff in there I had to go through, a lot of things I had to check out. So now you're going to get my paperwork as a sample. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. For entertainment purposes only is the best way I can say it. But when you do this course, the thing is you're going to understand how to use paperwork to successfully run your business, and those times where you just can't get to your software. And then along with that, you're going to get the proposals, the work orders, the email proposals that I send to my clients. Guys, I mean, I'll announce it again. Last week, I flew into LA for 2 reasons. I have one customer that has this, he's old school. He wants to meet eye to eye and shake my hand. I signed $950,000 in contracts last week for 2 projects. Proof is in the pudding. I'm not bragging at all. It's not about that. But why shouldn't you benefit from my experience and my tragedies in the early on stages, or however I want to say it? I want to get you guys to your middle. Again, unless God takes you home or you sell your business, you're in the middle. If you're wherever you are, I want to get you to your middle as fast as possible, spending the least amount of money so you have the most amount of time with your family. That's the goal. And so paperwork 101, and then in that was also going to come with the marketing, because not only I want to get you guys paperwork, I want to get you guys customers. And let's talk for 2 seconds, guys, again on recession proof, just 2 seconds, because it's so important. I think that times are going to get bad. Ryan touched on that pricing issue. Recession proof customers. What does that mean? That means when the economy dumps, people still have, first of all, they got to keep the lights on. Yes. But there are types of customers out there that still are going to build stuff. I'm going to give you one example, and this is why I've been successful through recessions. Let's say McDonald's. I'm giving it out. Or I have a Popeye's chicken. I've done a Starbucks. Let's do Popeye's chicken. We have it in Southern California and Louisiana. You got Popeye's in Ryan? Anybody have Popeye's in their area? Okay.
Yep.
Love it. Got it. Love that chicken from Popeye's. Okay, just give Popeye's an example. You and I are all super busy right now. We're in our service trucks going job to job, right? When you get hungry, where do you eat? 9 out of 10 times. Tell me. You guys tell me. Where do you eat? Fast food. Fast food. Jason, you a fast food eater? Nope. Got a little delay on Jason. Victor, you eat fast food? Yep. No? Well, good for you. That's if you look at what's underneath here, you'll know. When times are good, fast food restaurants are busy. People are running around. Well, guess what, guys? If the money stops flowing, Taco Bell is going to be on the menu. Fast food, right? So that is a recession-proof customer. They are always going to open fast food restaurants, whether times are bad or times are good. There's a financial reason for that, by the way. It's not because of the economy. It's because the more restaurants they open, their overhead actually at corporate goes down. They actually show more profits. But anyway, so that's just one example. So how do you get recession-proof customers? And we need to talk about that in coaching, and maybe I'll throw up a video on there. But that's something all of you guys that are channel members, I'd hate to see you 1 year from now when things are really tough. And God bless you, union electricians. I love you guys. I've reached out to a few of you guys. But you know, every union electrician is all of a sudden a handyman electrician without a license, right? And they're stealing, not stealing because they got to live too. I don't want to call it stealing. That's wrong. They're our brothers and sisters in the trade, but they're going to take work away from your pockets as well, right? You know, grass is never greener. We have to suffer in this time when the union guys make it. But then guess what? We suffer when the you guys aren't making it, and back and forth. So get recession proof. It's happened to me plenty of times. Business owners. It's super hard to hire right now. You know it, and I know it. There's no help. Everybody wants top dollar everything. Well, that's because when you do have a chance to hire, you haven't set up your employees to win. If you win, they win, plain and simple. If you don't set it up that way, they're running to the next guy as soon as they get 50 cents more. Okay? So things to think about, guys. Love you. I want to wrap it up. Ryan, again, thank you so much. Everybody, I wish you the best.